Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is December 13th, a day before the all-important net neutrality vote, and we're coming to you here with a slightly more serious episode of the Quad Mid Podcast, episode 11. I am your host, as always, Matt to the Jack. I'm joined by my brothers in arms, Thaddeus Wild Cucumber Abel and Bailey BK Wappa. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
That's good to hear.
I can't complain.
It's been a while since we've been on the air. Tad, what have you been up to?
Still doing the school stuff, both college and elementary, and just, finding a reason to stay alive every day.
Yeah, well,
that was too dark.
These are dark times. These are dark times, man.
Indeed.
At least after 5 o'clock it's dark, because that's how winter works in Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's actually dark right now.
It is dark. Bailey, I really hope your time since our last broadcast has not been dark.
Oh, it has not.
It has not been, but you sound dark.
It has not been. Well, I may be a little exhausted from finals.
Yeah.
And killing it, but
Yeah, you just need some cleanse and heal to flash away all your ghosts. I got you, man. All right.
And just teleport right on to that new horizon, huh?
Yep, you just really need some clarity there, and it'll come to you.
Just ignite that fire within.
I'm so done with all of you.
It's time to smite in our next guest, ladies and gentlemen. On the topic of net neutrality, bringing in this guest is really going to be controversial, as he is one of the faces to the party that is largely raising the bill that could single-handedly shake up the internet, and that is the Vice President of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Pence. Mike Pence, how are we doing today?
I am fantastic, Scott. Thank you.
I'm
doing real great.
It's good to have you here. You've been on the show in the past, but before, it has never been such an urgent topic as it is today, and I do hope that we can come to some common grounds, because I understand that just since you joined this Twitch call, not only has your voice and your personality changed, but perhaps your views on net neutrality as a whole.
No, I'm really rich now, so what can I say?
The vote is for those of you who are not aware, the vote on net neutrality is set to go through tomorrow, that being the 14th. At the time of this recording, it is the 13th of December. Votes to either do away with or maintain the current regulations on net neutrality. And I'm gonna just to give you guys a quick definition here of net neutrality for those of you who aren't familiar. Net neutrality is the principle that internet service providers, or ISPs, must treat all data on the internet the same and not discriminate or charge differently by user, content, website, platform, application, type of attached equipment, or method of communication. For instance, under these principles, internet ISPs are unable to intentionally block, slow down, or charge money for specific websites and online content. So, by now, if you haven't heard the word net neutrality, you're either living under a rock or you are one of the people trying to pass it, and you shout out that word because it is literal poison to your company. Wow, that is a rather biased argument. I'm not going to get in there quite yet. But basically, what they're going to be voting on tomorrow, or at the time this upload, it'll be today, is whether or not to keep those regulations in place and basically hold the internet service providers in check or give them open reign. And I know one argument on the ISPs is a common argument rather is they want this is freeing up the internet, and it's I guess giving them more reign to do what they please. But advocates for net neutrality are actually calling this regulating freedom. It's it's freedom enforcement for the internet. It's basically saying you guys have to keep it free. And it's really confusing for those who aren't educated on the topic, because both sides are saying they're advocating freedom, where the net neutrality supporters, the ones who want to keep it in place, are advocating for the freedom of the customer to not be under the the thumb of the ISPs, and the ISPs' argument for the freedom of them to conduct business as they see fit and to regulate the internet as a service rather than a utility. And without, now that I've got the basic definition out of the way, I'm going to open up the floor to debate. If anybody has any immediate I'm going to go down the line here. If anybody has any immediate thoughts on the topic, go ahead and get them out now.
It's good. Keep net neutrality.
I mean,
they've paid me a lot of money to get rid of it, so I don't know.
On that topic, I would actually like to talk about congressmen accepting money to vote a certain way and what that means. And
who was that? Wasn't the governor of Delaware?
It's not just one. It's called lobbying.
No, just recently though. No, but he got actually charged with like being straight up bribed. Like he's being indicted.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sure about that, but lobbying in a sense is them saying, "Hey, we'll give you this much money in support of you and
right
your political stature."
It's interesting as you,
This is how we feel a certain topic should be approached, and we would appreciate it if you agreed with us.
And they'll actually, a lot of times, they'll write up a law and give it to the representative to present.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting as you go down the line with a lot of the representatives, you can see actually direct contributions, and not to single out anyone, not to single out any politician exclusively, but Ted Cruz is one that's come under a lot of fire, simply because his top contributors were telecom companies. I think it was either Verizon or Comcast. Don't quote me on that, but they contributed well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars to his campaign. And sure enough, in every issue that's leaned either towards the freedom of the internet or towards the freedom for ISPs, he's voted towards the ISPs every time. And so it's interesting. I know Matt, or I should say Vice President Pence was mentioning the other day how Ted Cruz tweeted out something rather controversial. Matt, if you want to share that with the viewers.
He called net neutrality Obamacare for the internet.
It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Isn't this the guy that
Well, yeah, because Obama made it. Yes, it is the guy who tweeted porn on Twitter.
Yep.
Also, is the Zodiac killer. Just saying.
And then he says the internet should not operate at the speed of government. Like, what the fuck does that even have to do with anything? I'm sorry, but honestly,
isn't that why you keep net neutrality in place, is so that it doesn't go as slow as the government does?
Yeah, that's kind of
exactly right. It's like he's just talking nonsense to try to appeal like emotionally to his supporters.
Mm-hmm.
And
where the confusion comes in is, I think a lot of people supporters of this repealing are calling this the Freedom of the Internet Act, and it's trying to promote a free and open internet. And like I explained in the introduction, the supporters for keeping this law are calling it the freedom enforcement, which net neutrality is essentially just enforcing that freedom. It's, like I said earlier, not to be redundant, but it's forcing those ISPs to keep the internet free. And so it's really a balance between people who are educated and people who are indifferent, I guess, for a lack of a better term. And
well, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there too. I know I had a friendly little debate with a friend of mine the other day about it, and they were for repealing net neutrality. And their argument was, the internet, I found out the internet's been around for 60 some years without net neutrality. And I was probably nicer than I should have been, but I think it's just stupid. It's like, it's a 2-second Google search, and it says the internet became public use in 1991. And so it's still very new. Like, even I know sometimes it feels weird saying that because we all grew up with it, but I mean, you have to remember that. Well, at least my parents were very old by the time they ever heard of the internet or ever used it. It's still very new. It's very much in its infancy, and it's a great thing, and we don't always know like what to do with it. But I think there needs to be rules. There needs to be regulations. I compare it almost maybe to like the laws we have. It just kind of keeps people in check.
Right. And it's just interesting. It's honestly, when you think about the potential that this could cause when it gets repealed, it's really unthinkable. And that leads me to my next question. What happens, Bailey Coppin, when net neutrality inevitably, as at this point it does look like inevitable that's going to get repealed, what happens when net neutrality gets repealed?
Nice.
Well, if you picture the internet and internet connection as a series of tubes going out towards your house, and each of those tubes is a different connection to a different website, say Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, gaming sites, and other things like that. Net neutrality will essentially allow ISPs to chokehold those tubes and retain flow or cut flow of internet connection. Now, they can do this and then say, hey, if you guys pay us $20 for this, you can get full access to this speed, and you can have this all you want, you can use it all you want, but you're going to have to get over that paywall. So it essentially becomes a cable company for the internet, or for these ISPs to just reap more money off of and things like that. And it's every time they say, well, why don't you just let us do it? We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. You guys can trust us. Well, let's just look at the past and what they've done in the past and the track record of companies like that.
Right, and there's
Personally, I don't buy it, but
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
it's up to you. That is just in a sense.
Especially where like we live too. Is I guess I don't know about I can't speak for other places, but like I have two options for an ISP, and one of the options, like the top package you can get is like, do you remember what it is, Matt?
It's like 3 megabits per second or something.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
incredibly slow. So it's not technically a monopoly because we have an option. But if you want to use the internet for anything other than like email or a little browsing, you really only have one option to use. And so if that internet, the ISP decides, hey, you need to pay this premium for YouTube, for Twitch, for whatever, I'm screwed. I have to either pay that premium or I can't use it. And sure, I mean, yeah, I could always go to 3 megabits per second or whatever, but is that really like, how useful is that going? I mean, I'm not going to get anything done with that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm. And it's really essentially it's taking the hands from the government saying you guys have to do this toward it's trusting these big corporations saying, trust us, we will do it, even though there's nobody holding them back from doing whatever they want. They're just essentially they're saying, trust us, we won't do this. And it's kind of like history directly shows that has not been the case. There's a funny thing. I've spent a lot of time researching this topic, but back in the 2000s, before Al Gore was doing his presidential run, it was funny. Not gonna say much about Al Gore, but just other than the references Billy race. But essentially, what he did is he raised millions of dollars in a bill that passed. I don't remember the exact name, but he raised a lot of money to give to these internet service providers to help them lay the infrastructure and the groundwork to help promote exactly what these internet service providers are using to justify this enforcement, so they can at the end of the day, these companies are trying to make more money. That is what this is about. And he, back in the early 2000s, at the birth of the internet, or birth of the World Wide Web, rather, the internet's been around for longer than the early 2000s, but I'm getting away from the point. He gave a large sum of money to these companies to invest in infrastructure and expand their lines. And rather than turn and spend that money on what it was given over to them for, they used that money to go back and spend it directly on lobbying with various politicians and buying senators and basically trying to put in place quote-unquote puppets into the government system so that they could, I guess, control what kind of regulations going on. And they've been doing this pretty much for decades now, and now they've finally got in the people in place within the Federal Communications Commission to make this law, make something like net neutrality go away, and they're finally getting their heyday. And I think it's really just kind of disgusting to be thinking that we're living in a world where these companies can buy out these officials who are supposed to represent us, and they're, I don't know, I'm just...
It's illegal.
And it's legal, exactly.
Legal. That's the worst part, yeah.
And it makes you feel powerless, because I think I've listened to a lot of these individual commissioners who are the ones... For those of you not familiar, this isn't some big bill that's going to Senate or Congress. It's this big, huge topic. It's literally being voted on by 5 commissioners. 2 of them are Democratic. Two of them are Democrats. 2 of them are Republicans, and then they have their chairman, who is Ajit Pai. We won't get into roasting him at this time, but he identifies as Republican, which gives the majority to the Republican Party, which traditionally has sided in favor of the internet service providers. Now, I don't want to divide people here with politics, saying Democrats are the warriors that are going to free us from oppression of these big corporations, but
right now it's seeming that
historically Democrats
saying...
Democrats seem to side on the side of net neutrality, whereas Republicans seem to side against it. And this vote is lining up to go right down party lines here, and it's crazy to think that 5 people are going to decide something so influential.
Yeah, it's on that note too. I think it's important to notice that, like, one of the biggest, again, I don't want to drag politics into this as much as possible, but one of the biggest, like, backers for, like, the Trump campaign and stuff was people like Verizon. And, you know, look who's all gung-ho for getting rid of net neutrality is Verizon. It's,
yeah,
I don't know. It's like it's right there, and it's like right in front of us. It's all happening. I guess to me, it all seems like clear as day, but like no one's talking about it. It feels like everything's being hushed and like pushed under the rug. And what the part that scares me is, well, what Matt and I talked about is I think it's going to be repealed. And I think things will be fine for a while, probably a long time. Nothing will really change. And then there'll be one small change, and people kind of shrug it off. No big deal. And then once that's kind of the norm, then a new thing. And there'll be like one other thing, like, oh, well, you know, hey, now you have to pay this little tiny premium. It's only like $20 a month, whatever. No big deal. People will shrug it and pay it. And then that $20 premium will turn into like, you know, $40 premium, and so on and so forth. You get the picture. And then this will just become the norm, and no one will question it.
And eventually spiral out of control. And
exactly.
I'm kind of like picturing it in my head, this whole scenario going down. Imagine the American public is a sleeping bear. To make the classic example, the American public is a sleeping bear, and ISPs are a man with a stick. And, you know, occasionally they're going to try to poke once, and if the bear doesn't wake up, then they're going to poke again. And eventually they're going to poke again and again. And then before the bear has a chance to realize what's going on, the bear being the American public again, they've already built up a wall, and they've got it in chains, and there's no longer anything that the public can do, because the ISPs have already put in the infrastructure and, I guess, the regulations or lack of regulations to get them exactly where they want to be.
Because it's much harder to take something away that they've had for a while than it is to prevent them from ever getting it in the first place, as far as politics go. And so that's why this bill is so important, and that's why we need to speak up and we need to talk about it. We need to spread the understanding of it.
Yeah. And at this point, it might be just shooting into the dark here, because it's, like I said, the vote is going out tomorrow. You certainly, those of you who are listening, wondering what you can do. The fact that you're listening to this is a good step. You're educating yourself, and that's combating a lot of what these guys are betting on, is that people just don't care enough to educate themselves and to actually understand what's going on. I think it was funny that we referenced that Ted Cruz tweet, but he was tweeting out, net neutrality is the Obamacare for the internet. He's basically feeding off people's, I don't like Obamacare, and Obama made net neutrality, so Obamacare must be or net neutrality rather must be Obamacare for the internet. And when in reality they have nothing to do with each other. Couldn't be farther from the truth. I think the fact Obama is the only underlying factor here, and I think when too often in American politics we put a name to a situation rather than an actual what the policy is, and if we could work on removing just the name behind the policy, we could get a lot further in, I guess, just politics in general.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's the other thing is on like the official if you go to like the whatever they want to like repeal an act or whatever, the FCC, anyone, they have to open it up to the public for discussion and debate, right? And like if you go to their website, the net neutrality is like one of the biggest, like most talked about topics on their website. And there was like 23 million responses or something. And most of them were in favor for repealing net neutrality. But then when you look at the actual responses, like 99% of the responses are all like obviously fake accounts.
Emails.
Yeah. Like there's like there's like 20,000 response that are from John Cena. And it's like, and Ajib Hai uses this as like an example that like, hey, look, the American people want to get rid of it. But like all you'd have to do is take 30 seconds of research and say, wait a minute, this clearly isn't right. And it just, again, it's like no one's doing that. And
John Cena just cares enough to, make 25 different accounts, and
John Cena clearly represents all of the American people. So
him and his C Nation are single-handedly the supporters behind the FCC making this change.
But the biggest, like with any policy, just net neutrality, but anything, please go do your own research. Don't listen just to what somebody tells you. Research the topic on your own, form your own opinion, because
listen to what multiple people tell you. Listen to what everybody is saying about it.
It's just,
this is a great place to start, but go learn about it and figure it out, and then after that, make a choice.
Yeah, I mean,
talk to your congressman at this point, but
it's just like, of course, the big businesses are going to tell you that net neutrality is bad. It hinders them. I mean.
Yeah, from a business standpoint, so you definitely can fault them, but I can't fault them for wanting to make money, right? That's fundamentally how a business operates. They want to increase the revenue every year. They want to give back to the investors and the shareholders who gave money to them, and they constantly want to up the capital. So you can't fault them for that. But the reasons and the justifications they're using to do so are just fraudulent. There's really no way around it. They are basically using the need to expand infrastructure, which is something that I definitely support wholeheartedly. When you look at countries like Korea or Japan, we're miles behind those guys in terms of just national speed and as far as just like availability of the internet. When they use that as a justification to turning the internet essentially into profit, and they're looking to regulate so they can make more money, when in reality these are some of the richest corporations in America. And the funny thing is that even bigger corporations like Google or Amazon are actually coming out in support of net neutrality, and they've all the CEOs of those companies have come out and said that net neutrality is something that needs to stay. But yet, here we go. The guys, Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner, AT&T, all of them are pushing, and they've able to supplant themselves so far in the American government that they're able to push some. I don't want to get too biased here, but this garbage that is removing net neutrality, and they're pushing it so far down our throats that it's going to happen. Like, tomorrow the vote is almost guaranteed to go through unless some miracle happens, and it's just really it's a shame to see this happen to the country.
It's
agreed.
I mean,
couldn't have said it better myself.
At this point, it's really too little, too late for us. I mean, enjoy your internet while you have it, kids. It's not going to be the same.
Pretty soon you're going to start really paying for it.
Now you're gonna have to pay. $20 a month to play RuneScape.
As on top of the money you already spend to have access to it's paying for access to have access for more payments.
We noticed you've been watching a lot of Netflix's new show, The Stranger Things. However, Comcast has just released a new and exciting series, Weirder Things. I think if you would like to check this out, it is free, of course, for no additional charge to your data. But since you've used up all your data watching Netflix's Stranger Things, it will be an additional $20 a month to continue watching Stranger Things. As a reminder, you can always check out Comcast's Weirder Things for free, no additional charge. And of course, that's just a dramatization. But in reality,
of course, Weirder Things sucks. Nobody likes it. It's not even good.
Weirder Things paid us $14 million to let you watch this for free.
Weirder Things is so weird it's not even real, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, this is just an example, but I know a lot from the viewpoint of a lot of ISPs. They're with under net neutrality and it being classified as a Title II utility. They're essentially forced to put all internet through one pipe, and it's out. They're just getting a stream of empty data, and you can access any data you like at the same speed, and there's no filters. With new net neutrality coming in, they're essentially allowing you to filter data, but you can't filter the data, rather the ISP can filter the data. And their big complaint for these ISPs is they're saying, well, we don't like that we're having to pay for all the infrastructure and all the servers and all the Ethernet and I guess fiber lines that we've laid to get this internet connection to you. We paid all this front, and now services like Netflix are streaming these shows, and it's taking away from the content we're playing through our cable, like the Comcast example I made. Say Comcast comes out with a new show, i.e. Weirder Things. This was maybe a bad example, but it makes for a good meme where they put a lot of money into making the show and they want people to watch it, but at the same time it's costing them money to broadcast Stranger Things through Netflix's internet, and it's essentially costing them money. They're essentially funding their competition, and so you can understand why the ISPs might be riled by this, but based on the business that they're in, they really should not have a say, because they're like the ends meet. In a lot of areas, you only have one internet service provider. I know Tad in Fairmont, our hometown Fairmont, only has Mid-Continent, and we won't try to call them out too much just because they're a smaller company, but I know Tad has had great experiences with them.
I guess just to give an example, every day without question, my internet goes down at 12:30, like 12:30 to 1 o'clock-ish, or 12:30 to 2 o'clock-ish. I mean, I work at an elementary school, so it doesn't affect me anymore. But in the summer, it was really freaking annoying. It just, no reason. At first, they told us it was our modem. Bought a new modem. Oh, we don't support that modem. So then we bought a third modem, and that modem still didn't work. So finally, we just purchased their modem, the Mid-Continent approved modem. And then for a while, things were fine. It worked. And now, again, the internet, 12:30 every day goes out. No reason, nothing. And every time I we've had them come and try to fix it. And their latest solution was to hire an electrician to tear up the lines beneath the house and put in new ones. Well, that costs we'd have to pay an electrician like $100 an hour or something to come in here and do that. And that, I mean, I don't know how long it would take, but it clearly isn't going to be a short project. It would take forever. It would take a long time. You know, I don't have that kind of money. Like, and so I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do except live with it.
Don't play games at 12:30.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, there's that, but like I'd be doing like schoolwork too at that time. And
that's exactly what I'm saying. That shouldn't be your solution.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the argument is,
when it's a service you're paying for.
The argument is, Tad, if these guys are so bad and they're cutting out your internet on a daily basis, why don't you go to somebody else?
I can't. I don't have any other choice.
Yep.
My other choice is 3 megabits per second, and I can't use that. And so, I have my other choice is literally don't use the internet, don't have the internet. Well, they're like, that's hardly a solution. I know.
Yeah, and it'd be one thing if it was it'd be one thing if it was maybe like cell phone providers, which is kind of funny because they do have some crossover here with the 4G and broadband internet like that. But it'd be one thing if like cell phone providers were trying to put in a regulation like this strictly for calling and stuff, like because almost no matter where you go, at least in the United States, you're going to have multiple options for a cell phone. With internet, it's pretty much, unless you're in a major metropolitan area, you are limited to 2 options at most. And it's just, and like in areas yeah, go ahead, man.
Even in a lot of metro areas, there's still only like one ISP available. Like that they have actual like duopolies set up where they say we'll have this area and you'll have this area and we'll stay away from each other so we don't compete with each other. Like they actually do that right now.
It's almost like a cartel, but it's for internet, you know?
Exactly, yeah. So
ISPs are the cartel. You heard it here.
Confirmed.
And you know, you have people saying stuff like, you know, oh well, you know, one of the biggest arguments I always hear when people are in for the repeal of net neutrality is like, well, they won't do that. You know, they want your business. They need your business. So of course they're going to treat you nice.
Eventually we won't have a choice.
Exactly. Well, and again, in like my thing, I've had Mid-Continent. I had Mid-Continent at my house like twice a month for like 5 months, trying to fix my internet, and it's still not fixed. And again, like, well, then they're like, well, then, you know, don't give them your business. Well, then I don't have internet.
Exactly.
And now I'm just a broken record player, but
it's your fault.
Well, exactly. They need your business. No, they don't. I don't have a choice. My choices are like them or nothing.
And that's
I don't.
Like Scott was saying earlier, though, too, about like how they want to support their own like shows and things like that, and how I think it's important to remind yourself that's like this repealing net neutrality is not about making the internet better. It's about making the internet less competitive with cable companies like cable TV and stuff like that, right? I think that's largely what its purpose is.
I think it's largely in part of millennials don't watch cable. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
Do you? I don't have cable. Do you, Scott or Bailey?
No,
not currently.
Yeah, see, I can't. I'll be honest. Aside from like maybe the occasional Super Bowl game, I can't remember the last time I TV to watch TV. I use it. It's strictly my Xbox and whatever. Hell, I have a TV for a second monitor. I don't watch cable. I don't use Dish. We don't watch that. And I think that worries people that they're going, you know, that we won't use them anymore.
Exactly. And a lot of the ISPs are quoted as saying, we will not throttle non-fraudulent content, but the term non-fraudulent, or rather legal, I guess, to be more clear, we will not throttle legal content. And the term legal can be really loose because by removing these restrictions, you're again giving the power to the ISP to decide what is legal. Oh, this streaming service is broadcasting something that could compete with our shows on cable. Well, we're going to take that offline. And of course, it leads into the market of like illegal streams, and a lot of football games or sporting events in general are streamed illegally. And of course, they could just if they can't remove them completely, then they can just turn down the connection. So you're going to have to watch football plays 10 seconds at a time. You'll get to see the quarterback drop back to pass, and then you'll get to see the punter punting, because we're watching the Browns play right now, and that's what happens every time they get the ball. But I guess the paraphrase here, they're essentially blocking out the competition. And we've used the Netflix example a lot, right? Like, Netflix is the one that's going to get hurt by this. You're not going to be able to watch Netflix. Netflix is a big company. The first time net neutrality came around, they were huge supporters of bringing it in and keeping it around. And this time around, they're still definitely in support of net neutrality, but they've backed off because they're kind of like shrugging their shoulders, like, we can afford it. We can afford to play the premium to make sure our customers get Netflix at a fast speed. But like, what about everybody else? What about any other service that wants to stream stuff? Any startup is essentially screwed, and it's turned into like a gentleman's club, essentially. Not a gentleman's club, a good old boys club, where only the high rollers get to have their content out there, and all the smaller companies are just kind of left in the dust because they can't afford to get their content to the customers. And that's the greatest part about the internet in general, is it's a free and open market, and it's not based on the size of your wallet, but on the merit,
the size of your heart.
The size of your heart. The merit of your idea is what governs how popular your traffic can get, not how much you can pay to get premium service so all your customers get there faster. And the fact that net neutrality is coming and restricting that is just awful. It's taking away from the greatest part about the internet, and that is that anybody with any idea can spread that idea to anyone at any speed. And now with these restrictions coming in, it's just not true anymore.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you listen to like Hollywood actors talk about the internet, they say, it used to be, to get into Hollywood, to get famous, you had to know somebody, right? You had to have an in, and there were very few startups. Nowadays with the internet, anyone who's has a camera, a connection to the internet, and is talented, they can post it, and if people like it, they'll watch it. And
that's how all the kids got their
look at
their
like
positions in Stranger Things.
Look at YouTube and Twitch. Like, they're huge, and they're just people with cameras, and they're entertaining, and people watch them, and that's all there is to it.
Absolutely.
And that's great. That's what we love about the internet. But then at the same time, that's what's being threatened is that, and it's like, wait, no, it's like, this is what the whole like idea of the internet was kind of founded on.
Can you not?
Yeah.
The fact that you're here now listening to this podcast on Twitch or YouTube is just a testament to the freedom that you have to come and get information from whatever source you like. And maybe if we were uploading on a smaller site, like SoundCloud is a bad example, but maybe let's say we want to use MySpace. MySpace obviously can't afford to have premium, but if you were watching it on there, you would not have the option. You would be forced into these tunnels that you would be forced to watch from whoever is paying this premium, and it's just an awful policy. And I guess it's just kind of depressing to think that there's really not a lot that can be done at this point. But at the same time, I think something as bad as part of me believes that something as bad as this can't stay around forever. Like, so if the vote goes through, like, there's too many people, and there's too much driving force against getting rid of net neutrality. I just feel like it can't stay this way forever.
Yeah, it's Terrible thing. It just goes to show I think people won't realize what they had until it's gone, and then we'll just kind of be screwed. But
yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot we'll be able to do about it right away, but I think it could be a big debate in the next elections coming up too.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah, if for some reason you're hearing this and considering running for the 2020 election, assuming net neutrality gets repealed, if you intend to restore it, you will have my vote. That will probably be the only deciding factor. No, but
Kanye, dude.
Honestly,
Kanye.
any politician who
Kanye
wants
repeal
net neutrality.
he's got my vote.
Presidency.
I'm gonna open the internet like my music opens your mind. Kanye 2020 is bringing back net neutrality, baby. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my god.
All right, Kanye, you know what to do.
Get on it, boy.
But seriously, like any politician who wants instantly traction with millions of people across the country just has to mention the word net neutrality, and they're going to gain instantly attention. And then, if depending on which side of the coin they fall on, they're going to either gain a lot of hate or a lot of support. And I don't know. From our position as a podcast, obviously it'd be great if we had a huge following and we could go out and take polls and say how many of these people favor, how many of you followers favor net neutrality, or how many of you want it gone. And we could put polls out on Twitter. And if we were a bigger platform, we could get hundreds of thousands or even like millions of responses on just like a quick Twitter poll. And then that's something that we could send as like a letter saying, hey, look, I have millions of followers, and 80% of them say they're not going to vote for you if net neutrality is removed. And it's something like that where I think a lot of entertainers and people who in our position, but people who have a lot more of a following than us currently, could like make a difference, just say, do stuff like that. Or you say, hey, I have this many people, and I'm every day on my broadcast when you're running up for your next re-election term, I'm going to say, hey, everybody who lives here, vote for his opponent. This guy's a scumbag who got rid of net neutrality,
Yeah, it's definitely going to be really, it's going to be used politically a lot, I'm sure, just as banter in general.
And it's just a matter of educating people. I think I would say probably at least 80 to 70% of people who understand what net neutrality is and are well informed on all the related topics are against it. And then the 20% that are for it are either with the telecom companies. They either work there, they have family that works there, or there are people who
the internet's been around for 60 years.
yeah, the people who think the internet's been around for 60 years and has ran fine when net neutrality wasn't there. And it's just
I've been thinking about it a little bit here, and maybe I'm way off. Would you like think of almost comparing it to like just general public laws in a way? I mean, it is kind of a law in a sense, right? I don't know.
it's
The way I thought of it, maybe I'm flying way out in left field here, but the way I kind of thought of it is like, I always love saying, like, I don't need a law to tell me not to kill someone. I've already decided I'm not going to do that. And then the other hand is, if you need a law to tell you not to kill someone, that doesn't make you a good person. You're still a bad person.
right.
And so I don't think we should need net neutrality. I would hope that
Yeah, right.
internet companies would want our business, but we know just from human nature and how people are that that's just not the case. So we need net neutrality to keep these people in line and check. And does it suck that we have to do that? Yeah, but then just the way it is.
Yeah. I think
Yep.
hating corporations for wanting to make money is the wrong way to go about it. They're corporations. It is literally they are a corporation because their goal is to make money. You should hate corporations for wanting to remove their restrictions on making money, I think. The restrictions are there to keep things competitive. And where it gets really scummy is that they are actually able to buy it out. And this is a point I've emphasized a lot of times throughout this cast. But we need rules like this in place so that, like Tad said, these companies, you shouldn't need to tell them, but at the same time, they're corporations, they want to make money. You can't fault them for wanting to make money. You can fault them for wanting to remove the restrictions that control how they make their money.
Well put.
I think we're getting right around the timeline that we wanted to hit for this episode. A lot more focused, not really related to gaming at all, but I'm kind of happy with it turned out, how it turned out. Yeah, I guess just I'm going to go around the table here and give each of you guys a chance to make a closing thought or a statement. This is your Martin Luther King moment. Get up on the stage. Get up and tell everybody what your dream is and how you would like to have it. Tad, go ahead.
You know, we need to build a wall, and in order to build that wall, we need communications, and that's net neutrality. You shouldn't put me first, man. I mean, come on. It's point. What net neutrality is the idea of what made the internet so special in the first place. That it's this open field that anyone has access to, anyone can get into, and anyone can be a part of. I often thought about, like, one of the questions we had in the history book is imagine you have to explain how a cell phone works to someone who lived in the 1600s, and it'd be impossible. And so, I don't know.
Yeah. Well said, Tad. Well said, Tad. Next, we're going to go to our friend Bailey. Bailey, take it away.
Honestly, research net neutrality, understand it to the best of your ability, and really make a choice based on what you think. All we're asking here now is be aware of it, understand the different aspects of it, and do with that what you will. We, on one hand, are for net neutrality and we want the internet to stay neutral, but your opinions and your values matter, and we just want you to make the best informed decision for yourself.
But make sure you agree with what we say.
Or else you're wrong.
Or else we're going to throttle the internet every time somebody tries to look at your social media.
Got him.
And last but not least, we'd like to give Vice President Mike Pence a chance to share his views, which have altered significantly since he joined us on the podcast. And I got to say, it's really great that you've come full circle here, VP Pence, our boy Matt Abel. I mean Mike. Sorry.
Yeah. All I gotta say is, you guys better get used to 240p, because I'm taking that money. So.
Can I add one more thing to our closing remarks?
Go ahead.
No, you had your turn.
No, turn two.
For the additional $20 premium fee, Tad, you can have another turn.
All right. You only live once, so eat ass, smoke grass, and sled fast.
That's well said.
Well said. And we had gone an entire podcast keeping it PG, and I'm glad Tad now is going to bump us up to PG-13. I guess, ladies and gentlemen, last time we were on, as if we upload on a weekly schedule. Last time we were on, we went after loot crates and we debated EA, and little to anybody's surprise, EA went down and their stock lost billions of dollars. So now that Quad Meter Feed is coming on the air and officially striking down these getting political and striking down these net neutrality haters, it's inevitable that it is going to also fall and net neutrality will remain. So for everybody watching, I want to give you the opportunity to thank us for our contributions in keeping the internet great, and go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/quadmitterfeed. Even a follow on Twitter, it's the least you can do. We're saving the internet here. Again, and we also take monetary thanks, because we need to learn to live in the ways of corporations because they now rule the world.
Where did that Mellow Yellow sponsorship ever go?
You know, it's still in the email chains. They sent it to me a while back, and I'm just waiting for. I replied, and now I'm waiting for the confirmation reply. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might have got lost in a forward chain somewhere. I'm not really sure. But anyways, this has been a great episode. Very insightful. I appreciate you guys all coming on time and spending just a little bit of time to educate yourselves with us, as well as get your opinions out there. Let us know how you feel. Let us know how you feel about our opinions, and if you think anybody here is wrong. If you think Tad is wrong, that's fine. If you think Bailey is wrong, share it. If you think VP Pence is wrong, that's fine. Just be careful. He has money now, so he can hire assassins. If you think I'm wrong, you can keep that to yourself, and please keep that out of the comments, ladies and gentlemen. But as always, this has been Matt to the Jack, and thanks for tuning in.
You boys ready for 240p?
Always, baby.